This week on Straight Talk Africa, the crisis in Mali. French forces and Malian troops have retaken much of the Islamist-occupied north. The African Union summit, held earlier this week in the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa, agreed to dispatch more troops to Mali. They are battling rebels and Al-Qaeda-linked militants who seized the territory following a coup last March. That's coming up next, right here on Straight Talk Africa. Hello, welcome to Straight Talk Africa, live from the Voice of America studios here in Washington. It's Wednesday, January 30th. I am Shaka Ssali. Today, we'll discuss the international effort to bring peace and security to Mali as 3-week ground and air offensives have forced the rebels out of the northern strongholds. African nations and other international donors have pledged hundreds of millions of dollars to assist the French-led military intervention in Mali. The United States is offering $96 million and logistical support to the French and African force. Other donors include Japan, Germany, the West African bloc of ECOWAS, South Africa, and Ethiopia. My colleague Paul Cisco has more.
French and Malian troops pushing forward on both sides of the Niger River have taken back territories recently held by Islamist rebels. The African Union meeting in Addis Ababa was quick to welcome French intervention in the conflict and wider international support. AU chairperson Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma.
It is important to complement the ongoing efforts on the ground by a political process aimed at generating the broad possible consensus among the Malian stakeholders. We acknowledge the positive contribution made by France and the international community that have stood with Mali.
Donors at the AU conference have pledged $455 million of the now $960 million the AU says it needs for the African-led support mission in Mali. $50 million is coming from the AU itself. Soldiers from Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad are already in Mali. As many as 8,000 African troops may eventually join the effort. U.S. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon in Addis Ababa.
All the world's leaders agree that political process should prevail, and all the pending issues, all the crises or difference of views should be resolved peacefully through dialogue.
The complex uprising involves multiple rebel factions. The Arab Spring that swept through Libya in February resulted in thousands of weapons and an estimated 2,000 battle-trained Tuareg rebels returning to their homeland. They want an independent state in Mali that includes Timbuktu, Gao, and Kidal. They've long claimed marginalization by Malian authorities, leading to a series of decades-old uprisings. Al-Qaeda-linked Islamists also want to establish a Sharia state in northern Mali. Many in the West fear the region would become a refuge and center for terrorists and traffickers. Last Saturday, French and Malian troops retook control of Gao and then Timbuktu, a World Heritage Site 300 kilometers northwest of Gao. The Islamists fleeing Timbuktu destroyed a library housing thousands of historic documents, some dating back to the 15th century. State Department spokesperson Victoria Nuland.
Security track and the political track have to go hand in hand, that a key component of returning stability to Mali includes new elections and overturning the results of the coup.
Finally, this week at the Pentagon, the U.S. announced agreement reached with Niger, allowing American military personnel and possibly drones to be stationed in that country to combat Islamist militants across the region. Paul Cisco, VOA News.
Thanks you very much, Paul, for that report. Now joining us via telephone link-up from the Ethiopian capital of Addis Ababa is Erastus Mwencha. He is the African Union Deputy Chairperson. Good evening, Mr. Mwencha.
Good evening, Shaka, and thank you for having me on your program.
Well, it's always a pleasure, of course, having you on Straight Talk Africa, the Matoke man from Kisi.
Thank you very much.
The Africa Summit, of course, just concluded earlier this week. What would you say was the single most contentious issue during the summit, and to what extent have you been able to address it?
Well, I wouldn't call it contentious, but the highlight of the meeting was the discussion of the issue of peace and security in the continent as a whole, and the focus on Mali in particular.
Mali in particular.
And as you know, that there was a special pledging conference which was held the day after the summit, and I must say it was very well attended. Very many heads of state and government, and also international community, spanning from all over or around the world.
Let's talk about the African response so far. We do know that initially you were looking at a figure of $460 million for a peacekeeping force in Mali, but you apparently raised it almost close to $1 billion. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true. We needed a total of over almost 900 million.
And how have the various countries responded or reacted so far?
Given the time lead, Shaka, to this pledging conference, I think, and it's very clear, that the response was really very overwhelming, and I don't think that is really the end of the story. I believe many also indicated that they would be announcing their pledges later. So I would say yes, we are on our way, and of course this is significant in the sense that it will enable FISMA to be on the ground as soon as possible, and thereafter we can be raising resources to support what the French has done and what FISMA will be doing, and we believe the wide international community can come on board later on.
We were having a bit of a problem on the telephone line, so I don't really know whether you have already addressed the issue of the troops so far, because from what I have seen, it looks like there are several African countries which have contributed a lot of troops. Have they, for example, been able to reach the sort of magic number or the number that you expected?
I think we'll get that number. I mean, from the indications in the pledging conference, one would see the figure 8,000, being reached without any major challenge.
What about the bottom line? I realize that African countries have been able to contribute about $50 million. Again, is that number accurate?
Yes, it is accurate, yes. And that is, from the Commission resources and also the contribution of member states. So yes, we should be able to get that figure already coming from the African Union Commission and the member states.
What about the international community? How much do they have they contributed so far?
The figure that was reached yesterday was close to 453 million. So you can see that, yes, the international community pledged 400 on top of what the African Union had pledged. And as I said earlier on, there is more pledges that would be on the way from other member states who may not have been able to announce their pledges yesterday.
Now, Mr. Mwencha, you know as well as I do that sometimes countries do pledge to make a contribution, but when it comes to actually walking the walk, there you find that they are missing in action. How can we be sure, for example, that this time around, the amount of money that have been pledged, indeed, at the end of the day, will be money in the bank?
Now, the three partners who are very much involved in this matter, that is the UN itself, the ECOWAS, and the African Union Commission, we met yesterday, soon after the pledging conference, and agreed to have a follow-up mechanism will ensure that all those funds are returned in. And unfortunately for the bulk of the funds, there were 4 or 5 major contributors, and I think their track record speaks for itself, where we are confident that we should be able to rake in all this money that was pledged.
Is it also true that you are supposed to be having another fundraising meeting or conference in Brussels?
There's going to be a meeting next week. As to whether it turns out to be a pledging, I think what is important is to assess the mission. A number of our partners, for instance, the European Union, has not only pledged, and that's one area there where we feel that this pledge will definitely come in because they are doing it within the funds that we have, a program of cooperation with the European Union under the African Peace Facility, but also to train and give logistical support to the AFISMA forces. Yes, there is going to be a meeting in Brussels next week.
Now, what about back in Bamako, the Malian capital? You must, of course, be having a dialogue with the interim government there. Have you been able to emphasize the fact that perhaps what is really needed here is a political solution as opposed to a military solution?
That has always been our stand. I mean, the African Union has always believed that force should be the last resort, and that's why we condemn the move by the separatists and the Islamists who tried to move southwards to overthrow the state and also destroy and do all sorts of crimes. We always never take political settlement out of the table. And even a situation as it is, with all what is happening, we believe that Mali must continue to, talk within Mali itself, and that is therefore, you're right, is something that we really encourage, not just talk about, but encourage and would support.
What is the difference, if any, between the Tuareg rebel group or the MNLA, the National Movement for the Liberation of Azawad, and the main militant Islamic group, which until, of course, today was based in Kidal in northern Mali?
I mean, at the end of the day, as you know, that in Mali we've had a number of groups, and there are contradictions within those groups. There are groups which have got a heavily domestic agenda, talking about marginalization and so forth. But there are also groups which bring in the extremist, ideas of, elements of that have got fundamentalist approach. And also we know that in that same region, we have all these other groups which are managing a kind of illegal economy, and which are also linked to Al-Qaeda and all that.
I see. Well, we are going to have to stop right there, and I have to say thank you so much, Elastus Mwencha, the African Union Deputy Chairperson, who joined us via telephone link-up from the Ethiopian capital of Addis Ababa. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Shaka, and thank you for having us on your program.
You're most welcome, sir. We would like to remind you that Straight Talk Africa is on the social networking website Facebook. Just put in the keyword Straight Talk Africa and become a fan and connect with other friends of the Voice of America. We'll be right back with you, so please don't go away.
Military forces in Mali, Operation Serval. France has deployed 2,900 troops in Mali to ensure the safety of 6,000 French nationals who live there, especially in Bamako. The European Union agrees to send 200 to 250 military personnel by mid-February to train Mali government forces. Germany is providing 2 military C-160 transport planes to help deploy West African troops. Britain and Belgium have also supplied transport planes.
Whether you live in Somalia, Senegal, Nigeria, or Zimbabwe, from every corner of sub-Saharan Africa, turn to us for information and experts to help you improve health and life, for you and your family, for your health. Africa Health Network, only on VOA.
This is Straight Talk Africa on the Voice of America. What's your opinion about today's topic? Call us at 202-619-3111, US country code 1. When you call, please remember, ask only one question, keep it very brief, and turn down the volume on your radio or television. And now, let's go back to Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Gabriel Shaka, and welcome back to Straight Talk Africa. And now joining us here in our Washington studios are 2 distinguished guests who have a vested interest in Mali. Cheick Traore, the president of African Convergence for Renewal, or CARE, a political party. Mr. Traore is the son of the former head of state of Mali, Moussa Traore. Moussa Traore, of course, was the second president of Mali. Is that correct?
That's right.
You're most welcome to Straight Talk Africa, Cheick.
Thank you for having me.
It's really a pleasure because it's been a very, very long time since I saw you. When I saw your name, I couldn't be sure that it was the same person that I had known more than 10 or 15 years ago.
Indeed. Indeed.
You're most welcome. Also joining us is Boubacar Keita, Secretary General of the Malian Association of Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, an organization that represents the interests of the Malian diaspora. Well, I have to say again that it's a pleasure having you on Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. The last time we were on the show was it April last year?
Yeah, probably about around that, yes.
I see. Well, it's good to see you again. Later in the program, we'll give you, the audience, a chance to call and talk with our guests. The number to call is 202-619-3111. The US country code is 1. Now let me come to you immediately, Cheick Traore. First of all, what is your immediate reaction to what the international community is trying to do in order to help restore peace, hopefully, and stability in your country?
Well, I can only salute them. French took the lead in liberating the northern regions of Mali. We had asked for that because we strongly believe that it's a noble and just cause. Since the end of 2011, Tuareg rebels conducted by MNLA invaded the northern region of Mali, trying to separate those regions from the rest of Mali and make it an independent state. We have asked the whole world to help Mali because we realized at that time that Malian army alone couldn't face the rebels. The international community has asked Mali to start negotiation with rebels who really do not care about negotiation. we have pushed, we have asked the international community that we will only be able to recuperate the northern region of Mali through war. Some of the country neighboring Mali started playing around with those rebels, thinking that they would be able to bring them to a negotiation table. Instead of playing the game, they decided to invade the rest of the country. It's at that time that the international community realized that they were on the wrong side of this thing. And French took the lead. So we can only say thank you to them. But to end the crisis in Mali, it takes more than war in the northern part of Mali. We need to work on the south also to create political stability, and then go ahead with a national reconciliation and a total reform of the political system in Mali. That's what it will take.
Let's make a distinction between at least two major groups. One, of course, is the MNLA, which is a secular Tuareg secessionist movement. Is that correct? And then you have this other one, which is referred to as the Al-Qaeda-linked Ansar Dine, a group that, of course, until recently was occupying Kidal. This is a group that its members or fighters ran away from neighboring Libya. Is that correct?
That's not so. Today, because of the campaign of the MNLA, a lot of people in the West are trying to embrace the cause of MNLA. That's not so. People have to remember that it's MNLA that went out of his way to bring ACMI, Mujao, and all of the other entities to invade Mali. MNLA is the godfather of the rebellion and invasion of Mali. The only reason why MNLA stepped aside, it's because some of their supporters in the West, in France, told them that they would not be able to support them as long as they are part of the team that include ACMI and Mujao. So it was a political decision from the part of MNLA to divorce with them temporarily. Because if you remember, 3 months ago, MNLA came back again, the same negotiation table, to have another federation with the same organizations to take more regions, if possible, and secure what they have right now. So I have always been telling people, you cannot separate MNLA from Ansar Dine or ACMI. It's the same, they're the same. And the military leaders who came from Libya are not part of ACMI, but part of MNLA. The MNLA, the head of the defense forces of MNLA is the one who came from Libya with all of the Malians there, not ACMI. ACMI leaders are from Algeria and other places.
I see. Yeah. Now, what about you, Boubacar? Do you believe that the rebels in your country have legitimate political grievances?
I don't think so. I mean, you have to look at the history of everything. Like,
what do you think? What do you think they're fighting for? Why would they take up arms?
Well, you have a lot of traffic in that region, so they are fighting to conserve that traffic. You have a lot of drugs. I don't know if you remember in 2009, he had a plane that crashed with tons of cocaine. Nobody saw that. You have other traffic, cigarettes, arms. The region is big, and it's plain to do anything you want to do. So their revendication is not really political. It's just to keep what they have, the traffic going. Because if you look, like Mr. Traore just said, let's go back a year ago, on January 24th, when they attacked Agalok. It was not the MNLA only. You had Ansar Dine with them. They executed militaries. They committed atrocities. They were with Al-Qaeda at that time. And even after that, in June, they even allied themselves with Al-Qaeda and Ansar Dine. They even drafted a paper and signed it. I remember Agnajim went on TV and defended that.
So what do you call them? Do you call them?
Let's just call them what they are: Al-Qaeda. They are terrorists.
They are terrorists.
That's what they are.
They are not liberators.
You have a
you know as well as I do, Boucadry, that there are people who will tell you that one man is a terrorist, maybe another one is a liberator.
And I'm glad that you say that. But look at what happened when the French and the Malian troops went to Gao and Timbuktu. What happened? The population came out with flags of Mali and France. They were saying, long live Mali, long live France.
Right.
But you didn't see any flags of the MNLA.
Well, perhaps because of some of the activities by this Al-Qaeda-linked group, Ansar Dine,
That's exactly
which
right.
reportedly believes in Sharia, and in fact was trying to enforce Sharia.
But they were allied with MNLA. I mean, if you're allied with someone and you get control over that region, aren't you the same?
Well, you know, there is this on-again, off-again marriage between Ansar Dine and MNLA. But frankly, what is politics after all? In politics, you know, they are neither permanent adversaries nor permanent allies. They are merely permanent interests. When the interests, you know, change, the alliances keep shifting, precisely because they are after their interests. Don't you sincerely believe that some of these rebels, especially those who claim to represent the interests of the Tuareg, have legitimate political interests? Haven't they in fact been marginalized politically in Bamako?
I'll jump to that. The spokesperson of the MNLA is in French. In France, is called Ag Assarid.
Meaning?
That's his name. That's his last name. His name is Moussa Ag Assarid. He's the one you see on TV all the time. He's the spokesperson, official spokesperson for the MNLA. On September 2011, he was sitting at the inaugural ceremonies for a presidential candidate in Mali, in Bamako. He even gave a speech saying that this candidate is my brother. I believe in Mali. I believe in the entirety of Mali. I believe this candidate can do better for Mali. That's why I support him. And 4 months after that, you just switch and you are being marginalized? That doesn't make sense. I mean, we have to be logic here.
That's what I wanted. I'll add something. You know, the Tuareg problem did not start today.
You have less than a minute before we go for a break.
Okay, it started long before independence, when in 1958, when some of the Tuareg chiefs addressed a correspondent to General de Gaulle, saying that they cannot live under the leadership of black Africans, that they want their own territory, and gave more reasons. So,
the Tuaregs?
Those are the Tuaregs. That letter is there. It was addressed to General de Gaulle. They made it a racial cause. And they have continued prosecuting that cause up to now. But what certain people forget is that if you take the Azawad, the so-called Azawad region today, I'm saying that the Tuaregs are less than 3% of that population. And those who are so-called fighting for the Tuareg cause today are less than 1% among the Tuareg population.
I see. A reminder that you are tuned into Straight Talk Africa. Today's topic, international efforts to bring peace and security to Mali. If you wish to participate in our discussion, please call us at 202-619-311. The US country code is 1. We'll continue our discussion in a moment, so please don't go away.
The lyrics could be French,
English,
Portuguese,
Bantu,
Arabic.
It is the beat.
The African beat that counts.
The beat does all the translations.
It cuts across all languages and gives us the understanding that this is the African beat.
It is so distinct
and adhesive.
It binds us together.
African beat on the Voice of America. For more information, visit our website at www.voanews.com/AfricanBeat.
First units to reach Bamako came from Nigeria and Togo. The UN-mandated intervention plan had forecasted 3,300 troops by September, but pledges from African nations now exceed that number. When it comes to African troop commitments, Chad has 2,000, Nigeria 1,200, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Senegal have provided each 500, Togo 733, Benin 650, Guinea 144, and Ghana 120.
This is Straight Talk Africa on the Voice of America. Call us now with your questions and comments. The number is 202-619-3111 and the U.S. country code is 1. Call us collect and we'll pay for the call, or call direct and we'll call you right back. Remember, keep your questions brief. And now, back to Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you very much, Imani Nagabira Shaka. And hello, I am Shaka Ssali, and you're welcome back to Straight Talk Africa, coming to you live from Washington. If you have just joined us, today's topic, international efforts to bring peace and security to Mali. Our distinguished guests are Cheick Traore, the president of African Convergence for Renewal, or CARE, political party. And Mr. Traore, of course, is the son of the former head of state of Mali, Moussa Traore, and Boucadry Traore, Secretary General of the Marian Association of Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, an organization that represents the interests of the Malian diaspora. Well, gentlemen, I have to say that I'm profoundly honored and exceedingly humbled to have the opportunity to host the two of you.
It's a pleasure indeed.
Thank you very much. You know, earlier today, of course, I had to cut you off, Cheick Traore, because in this studio there is no democracy. When a producer says you have to go, you have to go.
True.
And I hope you find some space in your beautiful Malian heart. Forgive me for that. Could you please pick up from where you left so that you can complete your point?
Well, what I want people to understand is that these Tuareg problems in Mali started long before independence. President Modibo Keïta, the first president of Mali, the founding president,
who was overthrown by your father.
My father has to face it, and he crushed the rebellion because they refused to have a dialogue, serious dialogue with him. After that, President Moussa Traore had to face them. He did the same thing. And then President Alpha Umar Konaré came and brought peace. We said that you don't buy peace, because to have a peace, to consolidate a peace, you need to put down everything on the table so that we can understand each other and start reform. That's President Ahmad Toumani Touré continue the policies of President Alpha Umar Konaré. And today, we see what had happened. You don't need to be a genius to figure out what had happened in Mali.
But if you are going to have peace in that country, you're going to have to negotiate.
I agree 100% with you.
With these same people. You know, there is a saying, of course, that trust, but
verify.
Verify.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that we have called on our brothers, Tuaregs. The vice president of my party is a Tuareg. You understand? And we have called them to come to their senses, telling them that there is nothing that we cannot sit down and talk about. But you cannot take arms against your own people. You cannot call on journalists to see what you have done to the people in uniform in your country, because that's what MNLA did. When they invaded Mali, the first thing was to not only slaughter Malian soldiers, unarmed Malian soldiers, but to roll vehicle on their body.
I see. Let's go to...
that's very difficult to negotiate on that basis.
I hear you. Let's go to the lifeline of the show, which are the telephone callers. Let's go to the Republic of Tanzania. Good evening, Lamik. You're most welcome to Straight Talk Africa. Can you hear me? I'm afraid I cannot hear the caller from Tanzania. What about you, my friend Boucadry? What about you? Well, negotiations, trust but verify?
We need to negotiate, but first we need to understand something.
What are the fundamental root causes of this problem in your view? Of these problems? Really?
I would go back to the 90s when there was a rebellion was starting. There was a coup was being prepared against Moussa Traore. Moussa Traore could not fight. That's what I believe. That's my analysis. He couldn't fight on two fronts. So he went to Tamanrasset and signed a document that he knew he was not going to abide by. And from there, there was a coup in 1992. We signed the National Pact, or Pacte National. That was flawed also, because in that pact, we say that the military from the north, Malian military from the north, would leave the northern region. That's why the problem continued until the 1996, when Mr. Traore said that Alpha Omar Konaré bought the peace.
But under Moussa Traore, let's face it, there were several other problems.
Yes.
First of all, that was the era of the one-party state.
Yes.
You recall also that was the time when the Berlin Wall had collapsed. Mm-hmm. You had a socialist president in Paris, François Mitterrand, who required that former French, Francophone, territories should embark on multi-party democracy. Mm-hmm. Correct?
True.
Yeah, so he had a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And what happened? I mean, really, were the Tuaregs integrated in society to the best of your knowledge?
But if you go to Mali now and you see within the society, you will see Tuaregs in every part of the administration, in every part of the society. When they say they are stigmatized, I cannot believe that. Having that my mother is from the north, mm-hmm. and they live under the same conditions. It's the desert. We did not put them there. We just live there. We live under the same conditions. So you cannot, based on that, say that you are marginalized. It doesn't make sense.
You know, I was talking to a former Malian Prime Minister. We were actually in a conference in Pretoria, South Africa, about 2 years ago. And frankly, I had been led to believe by a lot of people that had worked in Mali, a lot of literature that I had read and accessed, that if there was any place in Africa where you could proudly talk about the existence of democracy, that it was Mali. The man looked at me and said, you know what, Shaka? You don't know what you're talking about. There is no democracy in Mali. And I'm telling you, I was the prime minister under that facade of democracy. This was a man who was Tuareg. I'm sure you know the man I'm talking about.
Yes, that's Agamani.
Right. So what went wrong? Did you in fact have democracy, frankly, in Bamako? Have you ever had democracy?
Well, let me tell you one thing. Agamani has been part of, if you call it nomenclature, because Agamani was the minister of President Moussa Traore. He's the only one who, I believe, stayed minister for more than 14 years.
So he's like a professional minister.
He's a professional minister. And he became the first prime minister also of President Amadou Touré. Yes, for the last 10, 15 years, I've been telling people that we don't have democracy in Mali. It's the facade that we have. That it's time that Mali and other African countries take the universal value of democracy and adapt it to their own culture and their own identity. Until that had happened, it would be very difficult for our people to understand something that you just take from the West and put it on them without properly explaining to them what it is.
But Cheick, why do we always talk about democracy as if in fact it is a product that belongs somewhere geographically or somewhere in terms of the race context? I mean, democracy does not necessarily belong to the West. Exactly. It belongs to humanity.
That's my point.
If we are talking about fairness, if we are talking about accountability, if we are talking about justice, this is something that was long practiced even before the great founder of the Mali Empire, Sundiata Keita. We're talking about 1230 to 1600.
Thank you. To my point, that's why I said, I gave the example of United States, of Japan, and other countries. I always said that after the Independence War, United States decided to go to manage the country through a multi-party system, copy on the French governing policies. Even the flag was copied on the French flag. But what United States did, they adapted those values, universal value of democracy, to the way of living of United States citizens and have their own type of democracy. After the Second World War II, Imperial Japan was defeated. United States imposed the democracy on them. They adapted to their culture, their value. That's why when you talk about Japan, you don't talk about the democracy a la American. The democracy is completely different from the US democracy. Like the US democracy is completely different from a France democracy. That's what I keep telling. I said it all started in Mali in 1235-36 with the constitution called Kurukanfuga. And today, we lost ourselves because we have rejected everything that we got. I am saying that bring those universal value of democracy and adapt it to our culture and our identity, like United States did, like Japan did, like South Korea did, like India has done. That's what we want today in our countries.
But Boubacar, you hear, of course, Cheick, you hear what he's talking about.
Yes.
But frankly, if there is any country, perhaps that Africa should be looking up to in that context, it should be Mali. You know why?
Why?
You have the great Timbuktu.
Yeah, we do.
One of the most ancient universities, really, where scholars, as far as places like, Greece, from Rome and what have you, would actually go to look for knowledge.
True.
Timbuktu. And right now, of course, it was liberated by the French from the Tuaregs and all that kind of stuff. So why is it that we have problems here? You have that great center of learning, Timbuktu, that has helped other cultures.
Like you said, we have a facade of democracy. We've had a facade of democracy ever since democracy was instituted in Mali. Now, what we need to do, we need to go back to the fundamentals. And by doing so, we need to reform our constitution, like Mr. Traore said, and make it so as it is Malian. It defines our value, our culture. It takes our tradition into account. If we do that, then we can go forward. But even if we have a facade, I'm not going to say that's all bad. Every democracy system has to go through bumps. So we are going through major bumps, obviously, but we'll still go through bumps. And by going through bumps, then we learn.
I see.
Probably get better.
Well, you're tuned into Straight Talk Africa. In a moment, when we return, we'll see what you, our audience, is saying through social media. So please, don't go away.
Did you like today's show? Write and tell us what you think, or give us some suggestions. And tell us on what station you tuned into. Here's our address: Straight Talk Africa, Voice of America, 330 Independence Avenue, Southwest, Washington, D.C. 20237 USA, or send us an email at africatv@voanews.com. Log on to our website www.voaafrica.com, or post your comments on Facebook, keyword Straight Talk Africa.
Welcome back to In Focus right here on the Voice of America.
Hello, I'm Dimyake Mwakalielia.
And I'm Vincent McCory. In Focus is going to offer the audience what many other television outlets are not able to offer. We're going to tell you the story behind the story.
What happened, how it happened, why it happened.
Oh, Dimyake is great.
East or West, home is best. My co-host, Vincent McCory, encyclopedia, I call him.
Being able to look around what's happening around the world and help people to get a better understanding.
Matthew Chibombe, a Zambian Straight Talk Africa Facebook fan attending St. Ambrose University in Davenport, Iowa, here in the United States, writes, I would love for President Obama and the United Nations to let African leaders handle their own affairs. Africa has its own challenges and lifestyle. Their involvement is making African issues more complicated. Besides, aren't there enough problems in the United States? He asked.
Welcome back to Straight Talk Africa, live from Washington on the Voice of America. It's time to bring in my colleague and social media reporter, Mariama Diala. Here is the one and only Mariama.
Thanks, Shaka. And that was our letter of the week from our fan in Zambia, who's attending college right here in the United States. He responded to last week's question, what would you like to see U.S. President Barack Obama do for Africa in his second term? Meanwhile, the African Union is calling for the deployment of more African troops in Mali. Soldiers from Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad are already there as part of an operation that initially involved only ECOWAS. Now let's take a look at the question of this week for today's program.
Question of the week. What, in your view, should be done to bring peace and security to Mali? Send an email to africatv@voanews.com or post your comments on our Facebook page. Keyword Straight Talk Africa.
We've already received several responses from our audience that we would like to share with you. We begin with a comment from Tazi Praise Semengwa, a Facebook fan from Lusaka, Zambia. He writes, all of the peace plans have to reflect the interest of the civilians. Every stakeholder involved has to respect the legitimate government of the day in Mali and identify the fundamental root causes of the conflict. Shaka, I think he makes several good points.
You bet he does. What about you, Cheick? Why, for example, do you think that the international community and the entire ECOWAS and even the African Union is coming on board to help Mali at this time, when in fact, from the conversations we have been having, you guys say problems started way before independence. Another one says the time when your father was in power.
Well, the problem started long before independence, and my party produced a document on that because we're the only party in Mali to have a center for political study. Mm-hmm. And when the conflict started, we produced a 34 pages document on the genesis of the conflict since independence and the 5-point solution to end this crisis in Mali. Mm-hmm. As the person have said, we need to go back to the root causes and lay down and propose solutions for the society and have a national consultation.
And simply put, what are those root causes?
Exactly. The root causes is that the fact that Somalians are saying that they are being marginalized, we need to take that into consideration, whether we want it or not. If we want to consolidate our nation, we need to take that into account.
I see.
You see, it's very, very important. And one of the solutions that we stress, our party, is that we need to continue with the decentralization in Mali, make the base of our democracy the decentralization process.
Unfortunately, time happens not to be your abyss. Sheikh, take it away again, Mariama.
Well, Shaka, we have another comment. This one from Godfrey Ismail-Nico. Godfrey Ismail-Nico, I want to make sure I get this guy's name right, in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, who writes, I think we should pay more attention on integrated regional strategies that should help all the countries of the Sahel region to stem the terrorist threat, fight organized crime, and control the proliferation of weapons. This will include tackling money laundering and improving border management. Shaka, he also makes some good points, but that is a lot to digest.
Indeed, indeed, Mariama. What about you, Boucadry? What is your reaction to that?
My reaction to both comments are, they are right on spot. They tackle the problem right there. The root causes are a problem in the border control and to control the proliferation of weapons. If Libya had not fallen, then we probably would not have this problem. So there was, I remember a comment that was said that we should leave, the United States should leave Africa and resolve the problem. Well, they created that problem in Libya, then they should help solve it in other countries, because we are the aftermath of what happened in Libya. So for us to solve the problem, to have peace, we need to have a discussion with the MNLA, with everybody that says he's or she is Malian. That's first and foremost.
I see. Well, thank you very much, Mariama, for bringing us this week's audience reaction.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the feedback we have for this week. We appreciate the hundreds of responses that we are receiving. Keep them coming. Now, just a reminder, we would like to hear from you, so drop us a line at africatv@voanews.com, and maybe your letter can be read on the air. Our email address is africatv@voanews.com, or simply post your comment on our Facebook page. Enter keyword Straight Talk Africa. Also, you can find us on the web. Just log on at voaafrica.com. Now let's take a look at what's ahead.
Next week on Straight Talk Africa, the African Cup of Nations tournament is in full swing in South Africa. Our own Sonny Young of the Sunny Side of Sports will join us to discuss all the exciting action, and he'll interact with you, the fans, by taking some of your calls. That's next week, right here on The Voice of America.
Yes, indeed, that was Mariama, a descendant of Ousmane Dan Fodio. Ousmane Dan Fodio, of course, the revolutionary reformer of the great Fulani Empire during the 1804 to 1817.
Indeed.
How do you react to that? I gather that we do have a phone from Nigeria. Good evening, Isaac, from Nigeria. You're most welcome to Straight Talk Africa. Isaac, can you hear me?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Isaac from northern Nigeria in Gombe, specifically. I am much troubled with the situation in Mali, and still want to suggest that African countries by now need to get their house in order. Yes, they must be able to take everybody along. Please let them hear, take everybody along. The problem of Mali is a little test for every African leader. They should know that no matter your tribe, no matter your religion, you're part of that country. Thank you, Chaka.
Thank you very much. How do you respond to him, Boubacar?
I was not, I did not clearly hear him.
Essentially, he's saying that everybody should be treated equally because at the end of the day, we are all Africans,
yes.
we are all Malians, we are all human beings.
And
why can't we do that?
True.
There is a lot to go around for all of us.
Well, we're trying, but we lack resources.
No, I don't think it's the resources. I think it's the distribution of the resources that we have and the distribution of opportunities.
Well, basically, that's exactly what you're saying. But if somebody has all the resources and is not distributing the resources, then the population does not have the resources, which we're lacking right now.
Well, what I did understand, and gentleman, message is that we should all be Malian today. That's what he's saying. That
he wants unity.
He wants unity. He wants us to be together, whether it's Muslim, Christian, or anybody. That's Mali. Since before the Empire of Mali, we built first the Empire of Ghana.
Yes.
And since then, we have been living together. Tuaregs, Malenke, Senufo, and other. Religion has never been part of a problem.
So what happened?
You know, and today, to see these extremists coming from the Middle East, coming from Algeria, and trying to impose their version of Islam,
but you
that's completely different.
You also had Europeans.
Exactly.
You had the French.
Exactly.
Coming with Christianity.
Exactly.
In fact, calling perhaps your legitimate religion pagan, and you accepted it.
Well, this is, let me say that something. Africans, let's talk about Mali. Malians have accepted Christianity and Islam, but they have never persecuted other people who did not. For the first time in our history, we have seen people coming from Algeria. See, ADMI leaders, none of them are Malian.